the Black Lives Matter movement, and of course, Jo Jorgensen had to put out another tweet, clarifying that she was not supporting the organization, which is
of course,
bunch of
and
Marxists.
it's a movement.
But the movement also includes mass rioting across the country, an enormous amount of destruction of property, murders, assaults, seizing of other people's property, just defacing churches and buildings left and right. And it's all done in the name of Black Lives Matter. And when you just say...
So here's... I have to dispute
well, it is.
that.
But there's no debate. I mean, listen, they're spray painting Black Lives Matter. They're screaming Black Lives Matter as they beat people up. Now, I'm not saying that the peaceful protesters are wrong because of that. But if you're just going to say this is the movement, Black Lives Matter, all of this stuff is connected to it.
Yeah, I think the problem is if we allow looters and authoritarians to define the terms and to define the narrative and the argument, we've already lost, especially when they outnumber us. I think often libertarians, and maybe not just libertarians, but certainly libertarians are doing this. I think we sometimes go under a false assumption. I'm not accusing you of this, but I do think this happens, where we think we have some kind of control of what's happening. These things are happening, and these movements are happening, and they are growing. And we can do one of two things in my mind. We can cede to the authoritarians and the looters and the rioters, or we can seize upon an opportunity of people who largely, and I have been operating in social media and offline in person with people in protests around the country who are largely pushing for accountability of the police and rolling back of some of the worst excesses like the war on drugs. In the same way that if someone says, that they agree with something that we support, and then they go and spray paint it on a building and smash up or loot a church or loot a private business, I'm not going to retreat from our beliefs as a result.
No, we should condemn it. We should absolutely condemn it. If
and we have condemned any kind of damage against businesses. I did a whole video about what about the looting. It was actually titled "What About the Looting," and I started it by condemning the looting. And then I also talked about how the police are creating the conditions for looting by putting all of their resources on brutalizing peaceful protesters and leaving the rest of the city unpoliced so that looters can run rampant, which they're doing intentionally, because then they want to create a popular narrative of people going, the streets are out of control, we need more police.
When the Libertarian Party and their candidates are just tweeting out Black Lives Matter, it just kind of leaves this weird feeling of like, but what about this whole other dark side of it?
Except we're not just doing that. We are addressing that as well. I want to go back to something you had said earlier, and then I want to talk about what you just asked. You had mentioned that we're turning off more people than we're bringing on. Our metrics show the opposite. Our metrics show that we're actually bringing in tremendous numbers of people on a message of on a given basis. I'm seeing almost, I would say, negligible loss of existing likes and follows. And what I'm seeing is that the growth that we have had is in people that don't have any kind of current association with libertarian groups. And we've done some deep dives on our data to demonstrate that. And these are people that are now, they're having Jorgensen Cohen profile frames, and they're going into our group and asking us about libertarianism. And in the same way that a lot of, people on the right come in and they go, well, yeah, libertarianism, but, don't we need to secure our borders, or don't we need to fight the terrorists? They're coming in and saying, yeah, libertarianism, but what about healthcare? Well, we have answers for that. But the bottom line is that I would argue from a strategy standpoint that it has been working as intended. Actually, I was actually surprised by how well it's been working as intended. Going back to what you're saying, we have condemned and continue to condemn anyone who is harming, business owners and harming, neighborhoods and harming people's personal private property and things like that. We are completely against all of that. We don't think that it's helpful. What we are also doing is we are acknowledging
but just saying it's a little bit more than not helpful, right? Like we're
condemning
evil.
it as bad.
Wrong.
It's wrong. No, and I'm saying it's wrong and it's not helping. Yes. Like it's bad and it doesn't help the movement. But we've been very clear on that. We've also put the context of how the police have created the conditions for this. When you take a peaceful group and you start shooting tear gas at them and pepperballing them and attacking them, they're going to become a lot less peaceful, because now they're being attacked. They showed up to protest police brutality, and then they're being brutalized by the police. There is then group of people. There's then another group of people that this is a secondary concern to theirs. They would like to get that Lego set they've always wanted, or they'd like to go and break into, whatever store. They'd like to just burn things down just for the sake of it. They just want discord for no reason. They are left to a city that is largely left unprotected by police who took away the private citizens' ability to be able to protect themselves through gun control, and then put all of their resources into attacking the people who are armed with signs. One of the things I'm very happy about.
I agree. I've been saying the same on the show for a long time. I think it's absolutely disgusting that the cops have literally, you see them, they sit back and retreat when there's a violent mob, and they'll push some 90-pound girl on the floor when she's part of a peaceful crowd.
It is intentional. Despicable. They are intentionally creating discord in order to have a situation of chaos so they can go, see, this is what happens when you protest us because we're the thin blue line that protects you from anarchy, blah, 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 blah. They've done this intentionally. So in calling out bad actors, we have to call out not just the bad actors who are doing the damage, like the people that are doing the rioting and the looting and the attacks on people's private property, but we also have to attack the bad actors within the state who have created those conditions in the first place. One of the things that I'm very happy about with an increasing number of the CNN boys showing up to these protests and protecting protesters is that by being there, the police can't now do things like pepper spraying and tear gassing, because it turns out, like we saw with the lockdown protests, like we saw with the 500 black men who marched on Stone Mountain in Georgia, when you're heavily armed and there's enough of you, police don't want to bring tear gas to a gunfight. And so they kind of just let it happen. And then they let the people go about their business. And that has been an incredible way of keeping the peace. When I was in Columbus, some of our Hawaiian shirt friends showed up with their long rifles, and I was super happy to see them. And I made a point of going over and thanking them for helping keep the peace and protecting the protesters that were there. They showed up. They started talking with the organizers. They were helping hand out Black Lives Matter pamphlets that also had Boog Boy stuff on it to explain how gun control was racist. Again, they were doing the same thing we were doing. They were going into spaces of people who we had a common cause to fight in alliance with, and demonstrating that we were on the same side, at least on this issue, and to help try to pull them over into seeing that we're the only ones being consistent on how to get rid of this problem.